Okay, so I'm going to explain to everyone how to use each tool in the shop that we're going to be using on our project. And the first one is the bandsaw. It's a small bandsaw. There's a big one on the other side that we won't use the big one except for some notching. But this is pretty easy to use, but dangerous. You don't want to get your fingers in the blade, obviously. They do use a certain type of saw like that for cutting meat. It has a stainless steel table, stainless steel saw and blade. So, you know, you want to know where your fingers are before you start cutting. I'm making a little curve on a piece of wood, and if you guys want to get in a little closer here, I'll show you by making the first cut. You don't want to force this. If you force this blade at all, the blade will pop off the wheels, make a bang noise, and then you can break. So what you want to do is feed this in right by your line. And if you hear it slowing down, just slow down. You have to take it fairly slow right through. See, I don't want my fingers in here near the blade, so I'm using one hand now for the rest of the cut. Okay, you shut it off before. Wait for the blade to stop and then remove your piece off the table. So everybody's going to try a piece. It gets inside curves like this. Gets outside curves fairly easy too. So basically you take your piece of wood, your line that you have on it, and you run it across the oscillating spindle sander, and then you got a fairly smooth surface after a rough cut on the other saw. So whoever wants to start, would be. And this is you get it? No? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is a $20,000 saw. It's a 5 horsepower and it weighs well over a ton. And it's set up the old-fashioned way. The fence, this is a rip fence, and the fence moves in and out by releasing this and turning this knob. So you can set your width for what you're ripping a piece of wood down. And you can also make it wider by pulling these pins, putting it back in these holes, and then, there's adjustments all the way down. At any rate, I'm going to make the rip. There's numbers on the table. So what I'm going to do is make a 4-inch rip, which is right there. And I'm going to lock it, okay? Now, to make a 4-inch rip, you're going to need a push stick to finish the cut. This is a push stick. So basically, the blade's too high. We don't need that much blade sticking up over the wood. And bring it down so it's about an 1/8 inch above the wood, right about there. Then you want to turn the saw on, and you don't want to have anything on the blade. Sounding machine. So when you're ripping, stand at an angle like this. Spread your feet a little. One hand on here to hold the wood down. The other hand to push the wood through. When you get to a certain point, you want to use the push stick. Now, don't slow and steady all the way. You don't stop. And you don't leave the wood in next to the blade, because if you do, it'll wobble into the blade and fly back that way. It's called kickback. And that's basically how we use the saw. Radial arm saw. And we're just going to make rough cuts with this. But you know, this saw is odd because you pull the saw over the wood, but it wants to come real fast, so you have to hold it back a little. So you have to pull and hold back at the same time. It's like, it's kind of weird. It's hard to explain. You'll feel it though. It wants to come at you. You have to hold it from coming at you, and you also have to pull it to cut the wood. You put the wood against the fence, hold it down securely with your left hand or right hand, whichever you are. And bring it through. Then you shut the saw off and take your scrap wood out of the way.